Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Options Trading's Watch List. Hopefully you all had a great weekend. I do apologize for not setting any videos. Recently I had some personal issues that I was going through, so we're going to be back at it now. We're going to start off here before we're getting to the actual stocks that I'm looking at for the upcoming week. At the overall market as a whole, because a lot of things have been going on with it, especially here on Friday. So if we look at the ES here, on Friday, with the news of the new COVID variant happening, we did get this large flush, breaking our nice bullish structure here as we were holding this 21 EMA nicely, getting this large flush below it, almost hitting this -2 ATR. So on the daily chart, this does look kind of gross if you were to look at this due to its structure kind of breaking here. We are forming a new low compression squeeze here, which I do like to see. But the thing I'm kind of focusing on here is the weekly time frame. So we can see we came back down to this 21 EMA, and all we've done so far after that is absolutely ripped higher and higher. It got close to that +3 ATR, and right now all it's doing is reverting back to that 8 EMA. Hasn't even came all the way back down to the 21 EMA. So everything about this weekly chart is still very bullish to me, and nothing about its structure is breaking so far. So I still do like all stocks to the upside, but um, with this flush here, we either have two options that I think could happen. We could bounce off this 8 EMA and continue to go to the upside, or the more likely thing that I think will happen due to the variant happening, and then New York is also going into a lockdown, is we could see the flush here all the way down to the 21 EMA. And if it hits here and holds this level as support, I think that'd be a great time to take some entries long on stocks, which it then should bounce and start continuing back to the upside, only if it holds that level here on that weekly time frame. So now if we go here to the Qs, all indices got hit relatively hard. The only one to me that's really holding up compared to the other ones, though, is the Qs here. Yes, they did get the close below the 21 EMA, but this previous low here, it hasn't even broken that level yet, so that's still showing me strength compared to the other indices. And if we look at the weekly time frame on this one as well, this one was very extended to that upside at that +3 ATR level, and this one hasn't even gotten all the way down to the 8 EMA. So compared to the other indices, I do think that the Qs are holding up a lot better and are definitely a little stronger compared to the rest. Now if we look at the Dow here, this one got absolutely hammered here on Friday. You can see that you had this squeeze that is firing to that downside. Um, it is at a extended downside level here at -3 ATR. And then also if we look at the weekly time frame on this one, we do have this weekly squeeze with two histogram bars here of losing bullish momentum and an actual close below the 21 EMA. If we come back here and look at previous times, it's come and kissed that level and bounced off of it, kissed that level and bounced off of it, but this is a time where it's actually completely close below it, so that's definitely something to watch, to where if this weekly squeeze does start to keep rolling over, we could see a lot more selling pressure coming into the Dow in the upcoming months. Now, last but not least, we will look at the Russell here. So the Russell got this great push here with this daily squeeze, pushing it up to +3 ATR, and then it absolutely came right back down into the place where the small caps have basically been trading before in a range. So we had this upper resistance, this lower support, and it has fell right down to basically the middle of both of those levels. So it's kind of hard to play, I think, small caps right now, because at this middle level, you either could get a bounce back up to this upper resistance, or we could just keep falling down to this lower support. Very hard to kind of tell at these levels, so be patient with that one. Now, if we do look at that weekly time frame as well, this weekly squeeze was looking like it was going to fire to that upside and have some nice continuation to the upside, but it got to +2 ATR and then rejected that level, and now has closed below the 21 EMA as well, with this weekly squeeze looking to kind of start to roll over. Its histogram is still above that zero line, so I still think that we could get some continuation here. It all really depends on how this COVID variant is going to affect everyone and a lot of the stocks within the stock market itself. So that's kind of the overview of the indices themselves and what I'm kind of seeing with them. Now, if we go into the actual plays that I'm looking at for this week, I do have all longs just because I do think with that aggressive sell-off at extended levels to the downside on many of the indices and many of the stocks, we could get a bounce the first 2 days, I think, of the market being open. So the stocks I am looking at are all to the long side. The first one here being AbbVie. We can see this previous squeeze gave it a nice push up here. We had a nice phase of consolidation. Keep on reverting to this 21, and it has been holding those levels. And now with a new daily squeeze starting to form and stacked TMAs, I think that AbbVie will be a good one to push back up into these previous higher levels. I also like AbbVie if we look at XLV. If we look at the healthcare here as well, its daily chart isn't looking the best. We do have stacked EMAs, but we are closing below that 21 EMA. But I think that with this weekly squeeze starting to set up here with price holding that 21 as of now, I think that this is, compared to a lot of the other things in the market, looking quite strong. So that's another reason why I like AbbVie. Next one I'm looking at here is ChargePoint. So if we come here, we can see we had this nice push off of these lows. Started to consolidate here. This is where we start to form our squeeze. Price has been holding this 21 EMA nicely. We do have our stacked EMAs, and I think this squeeze will eventually start to push this one to the upside as well. Next one here is Net. Net has been in a great uptrend here, going basically just straight up. Finally getting this nice pullback here. If we look at a weekly chart, we can see that this pullback came down a little past the 8 EMA and then bounced back up. So everything about this still looks very strong. But if we look on the daily chart here, held this -1 ATR level, bounced back with 2 closes above the 21 EMA, which I really like to see. We still maintain stacked DMAs. The only thing I would like to see is this histogram get back above the 0 line, or at least some yellow bars indicating that momentum is coming back into the stock. Next one here is Plug. This is kind of a play similar to ChargePoint due to the fact that they're both in the same sector basically. So we get this nice push off these lows. Once again, get this consolidation. We form our squeeze. Price has been respecting this 21 EMA nicely. We get the close right at that 21 EMA. So something to watch is to see if we can keep holding that level, which I think it can, and we can keep kind of bouncing maybe in between this 21 and this +1 ATR before this squeeze is looking to actually fire to that upside. Last but not least here, we have UNP. Had this great push up here. Once again, after a great push, you usually get a time of consolidation. We're getting that time of consolidation with this new squeeze forming. Histogram is above that 0 line, which I like to see. We were looking to fire this squeeze to the upside until, of course, we had that day of unfortunate news where a lot of the stocks did sell off hard. This one sell off right into a great buy zone though, and held that level at that 21 AMA. So I think that UNP is still a very viable buy, and I think it could start pushing back up here to these levels where I thought it was going to start firing in the first place. So these are the stocks I'm looking for the upcoming week. Hopefully you all have a better understanding of what I'm looking at and can maybe use them in your own trading. So hopefully you all have a great trading week and make some money.